Hello, everyone. Hello. Happy Monday. Very rainy here in Michigan, which is good to get some work caught up. Just got a fresh new haircut. Feeling good, Great way to start the week. Um, just hopping on to talk about habits on a Monday, right? And make a quick video on this. I was at church yesterday, right? And I noticed something. And, I just finished a great book on habits. I'll post it in the comments and stuff like that. It's just how we naturally have reacted over time in history and stuff. It's about habits and why we develop them. Anyways, so I was at church with my daughter, and I'm walking her towards the kids section, and I look over. They have a coffee place, as always. It's serves Starbucks and like little pastries and foods and stuff like that. But then I look over to the left, and they don't normally do this. They did complimentary coffee yesterday. Every once in a while they'll do it. Um, so I'm looking at the line at the complimentary coffee. There's a good amount of people, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But then I look over at the Starbucks line, and there's still maybe 10% less than normal when I come in at that time. There's people still buying buying bagels, buying all this stuff. And I kind of like jump back and forth. Right? I'm like, well, there's free coffee over there. Like, I'm not sure. And then I realize, we develop habits, right? So for those people, it might be coming to church every week and grabbing their Starbucks, right? Because they need to have their Starbucks. Starbucks crew is insane, you guys. I mean, they're obsessed, right? But it's a habit we've always built, right? Maybe that person needs that, you know? It's $5 or $6 of their money, you know? Free coffee's right behind them, though. You know what I mean? Free coffee. So it's confusing to some people, but we build these habits overall, right? Where you wake up and you say, I gotta get my coffee today, right? Even though you walk right past the coffee pot, right? Half the time. But there's other habits. There's addictions too. There's shopping, right? You have a really bad day with your kids, right? On a Sunday or something like that, and on the weekend, and it's a lot of screaming and yelling, or maybe something didn't go. Maybe your job didn't go well. Some people go over to Target, right? Walk into Target. There's usually a Starbucks, by the way. So they'll grab a coffee. There's $5 or $6, right? With some people putting all these liquids and all this other stuff in it, it could be $7, $8, $9 coffee. And essentially, they go shopping, right? They don't have a list. They don't say, hey, I got to just stop by to pick up eggs because I forgot them. They're just shopping because it's a habit, because maybe what has happened in their life. And we got to remember that. And there's so many other examples, but I had to remember that. It's like, you know, people shop or people buy their coffee when they're in situations where sometimes they're trying to forget something or it's their habit, right? So what do we do with these habits, Brian? Because like sometimes, obviously, I don't want to go to church, and I'm one of those guilty people. Let's say, I spend $20 at church on my coffee or at Tim Hortons on the way or whatever it is, Starbucks. It says, I'd like to stop doing that. Well, we got to just admit to the habits at first, part one, right? And it's not such a bad thing to have habits, right? But admit to the spending, admit to the, hey, I have this guilty pleasure. Brian's right, like that's, maybe sit down and figure it out, write it out. Sit down and see what triggers those habits. What just happened right before that instance, or maybe nothing happened. You're just like, wow, I'll be convicted when I was younger, fresh out of college, just met my now wife. She noticed the first couple years we were together, I went to Bigby twice a week to get the mochas, 16-ounce mochas or frappes or whatever they were called, right? That was like $5-6. She goes, Brian, you're spending $40 to $45 on coffee when we have a machine you're walking by every day. Just make an extra half a cup of coffee a day. If that's what you need, a little caffeine jolt. But it took me a minute, and it took me someone to sit me down and say, Brian, look at these numbers. Like, and caffeine's an addiction, and I understand coffee, and people love coffee, and they need to have 2 or 3 cups sometimes a day. But we just got to kind of admit our habits and sometimes sit down with somebody and say, hey, you know what, you didn't, like, if my wife now didn't say anything, I would have kept spending. Even the money guy would have, because it's like we built that habit, and it's okay to break it. Now I'm down to like 1 cup of coffee a day, and that's it. So I've actually decreased my coffee intake, and there's times I drive by and I'm like, man, Bigby sounds good, and a little bit tired, but nah, just keep going. Like, I'll be all right, I'll be all right. All long story to say, I want to make this short little video coming up on 5 minutes, so we'll cut it off. Just say, hey, sometimes you got to sit down and realize what the habits are, and some of them are okay, or some of them need to be adjusted, and some of them need to be fixed, and sometimes you need some extra help. So let me know if you ever need anything, and you guys have a great week, all right?